Good afternoon. How are you? It's always a challenge speaking after lunch. No performance pressure, I have to wake you up. So this is an interesting chart, and this is my reading of the intersection between marketing and technology. Marketers want to use a lot of technology, and they are still figuring out how to use it. A lot of technocrats and MarTech experts want marketers to use them, but they don't understand the language of marketing. And there's a chasm between the two. So there are two large trends shaping the world of marketing. First is massive information overload. So research shows that the attention span of a consumer has dropped to 6 seconds. It used to be 8 seconds. It's dropped to 6 seconds. The attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds, which means on an average, our attention span is less than goldfish. So while you're listening to me, you'll be tweeting, you'll be checking emails, you'll be looking at other people, you'll be doodling. Can anybody take a guess on what is the number of times an average Indian unlocks their phone? 42 times? 200, okay. We're getting warmer. It's about 181 times in a day. When I read that, I was shocked that we unlock our phones subconsciously 181 times a day. Do you know what is the number for China? 317 times. Massive explosion of tethered, smart, IP-based devices, which are not being used successfully by marketers right now. Knowingly or unknowingly, most of us have 4 or 5 IP-based devices on us right now. We'll have 2 phones, a laptop, maybe an iPad, a smartwatch, right? Video consumption is going through the roof. There are companies, in fact, I was talking to some of you over lunch, like a company based out of Indore called VitiFeed. Full disclosure, I'm an investor, which are doing almost 750 million uniques a year. Binge watching of videos. Massive trend. What does that mean for us marketers? It basically means our job is becoming tougher. We are trying to speak to people, we are trying to connect with people who are massively distracted. Go to a mall, walk into a store, and see the shopper behavior. While they are shopping, they're also Instagramming, they're talking to 3 friends. On an average, a shop is visited by 3 shoppers together. That's another data point. Shopping has become a social activity. The second trend is marketing in the 21st century pretty much means you're marketing to a trust-deficient consumer. There's a very famous report which Edelman brings out every year, and it's called the Edelman Trust Barometer. It says something interesting. It basically says the number of employees who trust their CEOs and founders to do what is right for them is only 31%. So 69% employees feel that their companies will lie to them, that their CEOs can't be trusted, that their managers are untrustworthy. In the same report, Edelman goes on to talk about a massive number of citizens not trusting their governments. So on one hand, you have distracted consumers, and on the other hand, your target audience does not trust you. And we, as marketers, have to reach out to them, convert them, make sure we get a lifetime value of buys out of them. So our job has never been easy. It's even harder today. There's some very interesting things happening. Consumers expect brands to be always on. Now, what does always on mean? A lot of us speak about omni-channel, we speak about call centers, we speak about SMS engagement, but true omni-channel is if you're a phone brand or if you're a telecom cellular network, and if a consumer tweets at 12 at night that, I don't have a signal in my location, they get a response within 30 seconds. And the reason why it doesn't happen is go to any bank, even the most digitally savvy banks, and try opening a bank account. They don't even ask you today for your Twitter handle. If you don't know your consumer, both digitally and offline, how can you respond real time? Think about your employee onboarding experience. How many of you have joined a job in the last 1 year or changed roles? Quick show of hands. A lot of you. Did any of your companies ask you for your Twitter handle, your LinkedIn handle, your Instagram? None. There are 100 of you who've changed a job in the last 1 year, and none of your companies bothered to ask you what's your Instagram handle. If you have a gripe against them, how will they know whether you're an employee or a past employee? So the interesting thing is, we won't change, and we want to continue doing the same things we've been doing as companies for 30 years. We want to continue hiring the same talent we've been hiring for many years, which means a typical marketer will be from a top business school with an engineering degree, and from the same schools the companies have been hiring for many years. Very hard to expect different results when the input and the process is the same. Now let's talk about what are some of the things we can do. So if you're trying to market to customers who are distracted and who don't trust you, you end up reaching out to consultants and you ask them, how do I market to them? And they come back with a slide like this. 5,000 options to choose from. And I was joking with Scott and I was telling him, soon you will just throw some color on a slide and you will tell us these are logos of companies who are doing MarTech. You will not need to do research anymore. So the slide is already so busy that you can't read it. So the job of a marketer becomes even more difficult. We have consumers who don't believe us. We have consumers who are more distracted than they ever were. And the solution which comes from consulting companies is this: use MarTech. Where do you start? This is like a Chinese maze. My recommendation is you should always start with the buying journey. And the buying journey is not linear anymore. You were always taught it starts from awareness and goes down to advocacy. Today, a consumer could start with advocacy even without owning your brand. Harley Davidson. They had more lawyer fans in India even before they entered India. So today, your consumer journey could start with advocacy and then move towards awareness, where they actually have tried the product or sampled it or are aware of. Using DMPs. How do you do precise identification and targeting using some very good DMPs which are out there? And the beauty of DMPs is your competition could also be using DMPs. But how do you actually add third-party data which does not come as a part of the DMP package to make it even more meaningful? I'll give you a use case from travel and hospitality where my company RateGain works. In travel and hospitality, my company has social sentiment analysis, it has competitive price intelligence data, it has weather data, it has oil price data, it has fleet utilization data from airlines. Imagine if I show you an ad which says that you want to book a car for a vacation, say in, I don't know, say in Shimla. And I'm telling you there is a 40% chance that the temperature is going to be 33 degrees. And why don't you, for 300 rupees extra per day, book a convertible? And I'm showing you the weather information in the ad. It's possible, we have the information. How many of you are actually using that? So marketers are often data rich and technology poor. They know what to do, they struggle with how to do it. So you really, really need expert partners to help you make the most out of your DMP investments. The second thing is, a lot of us are aware of the visible funnel. How many of us market to people in the dark funnel? Most of the action, 70–80% of decisions are taken even before consumers interact with your brand, even before they see an ad. If 80% of decision making is happening in the dark funnel, how do you really, really market to people in the dark funnel? When people are reading comparison articles, when people are doing anonymous web results, web search, there are some very, very sophisticated tools which allow you to do that. And I promise that I'll not name any products, so I'm not naming any products. But you should research on tools which allow you to market in the dark funnel. There's some great tools which you can integrate with your MarTech stack and really, really market in the dark funnel. Often when the consumer does not even know that they are going to buy your product or category. We spoke about targeting, but it's very, very important that you have a 360 view of the customer, you have an enterprise data warehouse, and you use an integrated MarTech stack to reach out to consumers. Interestingly, email results in the highest number of conversions even now. And I would love a good debate on it later. But for a lot of e-commerce companies, 40% of their sales still happens on email. So it's a very old tool, it's not very sexy. Still, if it's done well, the largest concern in email marketing is deliverability. So how do you really, really increase deliverability? This is an example of how do you use AI to actually do mass personalization on your site. Very, very few brands do it. Do a random check, go to your brand site, get 10 friends to log in, all of them will see the same screen. It's very cheap technology, it's been there for 4 or 5 years. And we are still not using first-party data, which is in your CRM. We are not using server-side data of past visits to personalize the consumer experience. So fantastic opportunity here to actually use machine learning AI to package your products and services online on the fly. Actually, the way to think of websites is you should think of themselves as loosely held widgets which self-combine when a user comes to your website. And all this is done in under 1/100th of a second. So don't think of a website as a pre-packaged user flow. GDPR is very important. I know we don't have very strong data privacy laws in India right now. But if you end up reaching out to a European who's traveling in India or who's in India, and you don't realize he or she is a European, you could be violating GDPR norms, which have a massive impact. And if you're sued, you could end up paying a lot. So please make sure your database is GDPR compliant. And the way actually I like to think of MarTech is there are 3 things. There are systems of insight, which actually tell you what to do. There are systems of engagement, which allow you to engage. And all this is brought together by marketing technology. So thank you, and would love to catch up with all of you after this. Thank you.